Dzień dobry, nazywam się Kamila Kuzar i dzisiaj w rozmowach w cieniu przeniesiemy się na Bałkany. Moim gościem jest Stojkowicz, obrońca praw człowieka, serbski prawnik i osoba, która, mam nadzieję, odpowie nam na pytanie, czy na Bałkanach grozi nam konflikt zbrojny i ewentualnie jaka jest w tym rola Rosji. Na początek, gdybyś mógł powiedzieć, jaka jest teraz sytuacja w Serbii, jak wygląda to z Twojego punktu widzenia i czy geopolityczna sytuacja Serbii jest nadal bardzo uzależniona od tego, co się dzieje w Rosji i jakie z Rosji decyzje zapadają?
Well, situation in Serbia is difficult, but this is not anything new. It is difficult for decades now. Somehow we feel the same pressure from the Russian side as we felt in recent years. But the difference is that now that pressure have different face, different shape. And the second difference is that our government now trying to deceive West about its policy. But we can see with the true eyes what situation is when we have in mind that vice presidents of the government of Serbia are pro-Russian guys and actually the agents of Vladimir Putin himself. So when you have two vice presidents as such, and both of them are on the list of the United States Department of Treasury on the list of sanctions, when you have that two guys as a vice president in the Serbian government, then we know what situation is. Maybe that thing's actually the best describes now the situation in Serbia.
Dobrze, a jakie są te powiązania na szczeblu takim organizacyjnym, rządowym, jeżeli chodzi o Rosję? Gdzie najbardziej widać te wpływy rosyjskie?
Yeah, well, as we speak now, the vice president of Serbia, Alexander Vulin, is now in Moscow and have meetings with security officials in Moscow. This is his second trip in the last 40 days. So he was there 40 days ago, and he stand there for 7 days. Now he's there again, and with him is the second vice president of the Serbian government, also with in meetings with high Russian officials, with ministers, and with military officials. So in the same times, Vice President Vulin from Moscow sent the message that things between Serbia and Kosovo will escalate before September. So if he sent that message from Moscow as a very clear agent of Kremlin, then we know what time it is, and then we know what is actually behind this meeting. So Russian wants to use Serbian government to somehow incite conflict in Balkans, and because the Balkans is not settled, and there is many problems in Balkans. Because of it, it's very easy to incite some new fire in Balkans.
W jaki sposób działa rosyjska propaganda w Serbii?
You can tell the kids not to start smoking before they start smoking. When they start smoking, it is too late. They are addicted, and it's very heavy now to quit the smoking, or the drugs is the same. So it is the same situation when it comes to awareness of people what Russians doing actually in Serbia. Because they have a huge influence in Serbian media, and actually Russians are owners of some media in Serbia, and they have heavily they have heavily financing Serbian newspapers, journalists, editors, because all of that, Serbians have no awareness what is going on, because the Russian propaganda in is in actually in business with Serbians government. So both of them explain Serbs to Serbians how everybody else are bad, how everybody else are to blame, how everybody else wants to destroy Serbia, wants to destroy Serbian population. So basically the same narrative that we can acknowledge in Moscow, it is now in Belgrade. In Moscow, propagandist speaks that West want to destroy Serbia, Russia, West want to destroy Russians to kill, and you know the story. So the same thing is here. So people in Serbia actually believes, because of such propaganda, that West is the enemy, that they want to cut all Serbian interests, that they want to that they want to steal more and more territories from Serbia. And because of that, Serbs have no idea. They really think that the facts are like that. And they really think that our neighbors, Albanians, Bosniaks, Croatians, but that they want to do us harm. So the Russian propaganda actually made this in joint venture with Serbian government, and Serbian government used that narrative to be on power, to collect the voters, and so there is a joint venture between Serbian government and Russian intelligence service. So people have no idea. When I say people, of course, I don't mean for every single person in Serbia, but majority of people, vast majority of people think in that way. We are in minority, and we are trying to fight, and we have struggled to raise our voice because we don't have free media. So it's difficult to explain these things. And when you try to explain, and when you spoke in public against this Russian influence, against this war gaming and war mongering rhetorics, when you speak against that, the government media and Russian media portray us as enemies, as traitors, because we want peace and we want Russia to restrain for our businesses. So this is the situation now.
W Serbii bardzo często mamy taką świadomość tego, że Serbowie jednak nie mogą wybaczyć tej sytuacji z końca lat 90., kiedy Belgrad został zbombardowany przez NATO, i zastanawiam się, na ile ta informacja, to przekonanie, że Zachód jest złem, jednak wciąż w Serbii funkcjonuje.
Yeah, because once in history, Serbia gained trust to establish big country in Balkans, and we call that country Yugoslavia. And many the peoples with the same language, Croatian, Bosnians, Montenegrins, and with the similar language like Macedonians and Slovenians, was part of this big country. But in the beginning of 19th, the Serbs are lost that trust, and all of those people wanted to have their own countries, and they didn't want to be in the same country with Serbia. The main reason for that is because while disintegration of Soviet Union was in progress, in Yugoslavia, there was a line of difference. So from the one side of that line was the Slovenia, Croatia, and other republics which wanted to go very fast to the west, as Poland did. And on the other line, on the other part of that line, on the other side, there was Serbia, which wanted to have still great and heavy connections with Russians. So imagine that Poland and Belarusians once was in the same country and came 1989 years, and then Poland's want to go to West, but Belarusians want to go to Russia, and then you have that split, and then you have fight, then you have war, and Belarusians lose some territories. The same, actually, that is what happened in the Balkans in the 90s. But because Russian influence never stopped in Serbia, many people believes that in that wars in the 19th, Serbs are damaged by the West. So we cannot accept the fact that other people, they just simply didn't wanted to live with us anymore because we didn't want to live as Western countries want to live. So we didn't accept that as historical fact, and because of that now, and because of the Russian propaganda, now majority of people actually thinks that all those wars were actually aggression from the West against Serbia, and they simply cannot admit the fact that there was huge difference uh, uh, in the way what republic wants as its future, and we cannot accept that we didn't allow those republic to make disintegration of Yugoslavia peacefully. So we, not I, but yeah, majority of Serbia still thinks that this is that war of 90s is the consequence of the Western aggression, and because of that, it is easy now to prolong Russian influence for who knows for how long.
Jeżeli chodzi o Twoje bieżące sprawy, czym zajmowałeś się ostatnio, jeżeli chodzi o sprawy takie karne, sądowe, dotyczące właśnie i mające wiele wspólnego z tym ruchem antyputinowskim w Serbii?
Well, yes. First, there is many people in Serbia who actually fighting for peace, and fighting for peace actually the part of fighting for peace is fighting for reconciliation and fighting for having good relations with our neighbors. And in January, there was one guy, he was arrested by Serbian intelligence, and then after that by Serbian police forces. He was arrested because he went to Kosovo and he put a flower on the grave of a young Albanian girl. That was girl which had she was only 7 years old when she killed in the armed conflicts from the Serbian police forces. That was 1998 or 1999. So that guy, Nikola Sendulovic, went to Kosovo and he put flower on the grave of that young girl. And when he put that things on the Twitter account, the Serbian intelligence arrested him, beaten him, and put him in the jail. So I fight for him to actually to gain his freedom again. But this is actually example how things works. So anybody who wants to create peaceful environment in the Balkans are under some kind of prosecution, under some kind of attacks. So it is very hard to it's very hard to create normal environment in Balkan when you have that kind of behavior of pro-Russian government in Serbia and also others sentiments and organization in Serbia. The other case, which is now here start to be popular, is that there is one journalist from Belarus, I think, and he and through Interpol, Russia wants to put him in the jail, and they have some. He have some um, criminal charges there in Belarus, but he is very prominent opposition journalist in Belarus. So he landed in Serbia. Belarus issued the Interpol warrant against him, and Serbia arrested him, put him in the custody, and after that, the court order is uh, to get him back to Belarus. And as we know, Belarus kills some political opponents and also free journalists. So for him, this is like life danger uh, to be surrendered to Belarus. But Serbian court made that decision, and now here is a legal fight and also the media fight. How to stop this to happen. So there is many cases like this. This is just two of them in which I was in.
Ja pamiętam taki happening, który zorganizowałeś w rok po inwazji na Ukrainę. Ten tort z trupią czaszką przed ambasadą rosyjską, to było takie znamienite i pokazanie, że jednak są ludzie, którzy w Serbii sprzeciwiają się wojnie. Jakie represje Ciebie spotkały w związku z Twoją działalnością?
Yes, of course. I was out of Serbia for 6 months. I was from the October last year until the end of April. I was out of Serbia just because it was too hot here for me, hot in the security and political way. So it was very. I made the judgment that it is necessary for me to leave the country and to be outside for a while, just to make that pressure and attacks to be a little bit less. This is what I'm actually now, what I'm doing now. But every time when I cross the border, Serbian border, the Serbian intelligence officials stopped me on the border, and they hold me there for 4 hours. They use some hole in the Serbian law, and they think that it is legally for me to hold me 4 hours. So anywhere, anytime when I cross the border, I have the situation like that. It is not a matter, am I alone, or I'm going with my families, or I'm taking my child to vacation, all the same. So it works like that, like this. When the border control put my passport on the screening, on the scan, they have a notification in the computer called the Serbian intelligence service on this number. So they are obligated to call this number, and they call this number, and the voice from the other side tell him that hold him for 4 hours, make him some trouble, and after 4 hours release them.
Gdzie w tym wszystkim jest Unia Europejska? Powiedz, czy Ty prowadząc taką działalność, jaką prowadzisz, pomagając, uświadamiając ludzi, czy Ty również otrzymujesz jakąś pomoc, czy zwracałeś się o pomoc do instytucji europejskich?
Well, the last time when I was in the European Union offices, it was the first quarter of 2023. And at that point, I had very heavy fighting here against Russians, against Russian settlements, against propaganda, and I had many cases, the court cases, in which I fighting this, and those cases like pro-Russians attacks Ukrainian refugees in Serbia. I make that as a human write case and put it in the court, and many cases like that. And then in the one point, I just because I always financing everything by myself, and I just in one point I was uh, thinking, okay, I cannot do this anymore because of my activism. I cannot spend time in my law business, and because I fighting this heavy, the clients now start worrying that will affect their cases. So I have business decline at the time. So I went to the office of EU delegation in Serbia, and I met there, and I wanted appointment about that, and the political officer of the EU delegation received me, and here's what happened. So there was a big room in the EU delegation office in Belgrade, a conference room in which, I don't know, 60 or 70 people can sit in the round table. Distance between two diagonal table is, I don't know, 10 meters or something. So that guy actually received me in the same way how Vladimir Putin received Emmanuel Macron in that remarkable white table when there was splitted 10 meters. So I was split in the 10 meters, despite the fact nobody was in the room. And we start to talk, and I said, okay, I have many cases which are actually fighting Russian propaganda here. I need some help. I need some to be part in some projects. Also, I have these cases when I'm fighting for human rights, but they are also involved in fighting Russian propaganda, and I know that there is funds and budgets in the Brussels which actually are made for this. So after year and a half fighting by myself, I need some financial support. So that guy tell me, no, you cannot have it. We everything what we had, we already gave to other organizations, but I said nobody doing this except me. He said, I don't care. Uh, and I said, okay, can you help me and my organization with fighting for human rights, and that we will use to fighting Russian influence? He said no, and he said that without any wish to cooperate, to find a way how to help me. And after that, he said me, "Oh, I was in, I served sometimes in the Kaliningrad. I know Russian language, and I wrote a book how intervention of NATO in Serbia and Yugoslavia was unlawful." And I was said, okay, now I know what is going on. And this was the last time when I was in EU office anywhere. So it is very, and those things actually told me that there is some influence in the European Union and organization and institution of European Union. There is influence from some pro-Russian sentiment.
It's quite interesting what you're saying. The last question I have, it involves possibility of war in Balkans. Uh, what do you think? Is it possible that the war will be between Serbia and Bosnia, for example? Because the tension clear.
There is many definition of war. And there are some definitions of war that not included armed conflict. So by that definition, war in Balkans has never stopped. And it is just a question, will that conflict and war became armed conflicts and armed war. So the only reason why we do not have conflicts today is because we have NATO troops in the Kosovo and Bosnia and Herzegovina. And in 2022, when Russian invasion started on Ukraine, when there was a risk of war and armed conflicts in Balkans, the U.S. Aircraft carrier Gerald Ford entered the harbor in Split in Croatia, and airplanes flying around the Balkans, U.S. Planes. So this is the only reason why we do not have war today. So, in order to have conflict and war in Balkan, it is just enough to NATO remove its troops from Balkan, and in the same second we will have the war. So, in that situation, I can guarantee you that the main goal of the Russia in Balkan is to somehow uh, uh, convince the West to remove those troops in the one hand, in the other hand to convince crazy people as two vice presidents of Serbian government are to make that fire. So, and the only question now is, does the warmongering people in Serbia will judge that entering in that conflict will pay off, despite the fact that NATO troops are in Balkans? If their judgment is that will pay off, we will have that war. If their judgment is no, NATO will not react, at least NATO will not react in heavy way, then in that case, we will have a war in Balkans. So when you have a situation out of your hands, that means the situation is out of your control, and that means that risk is very, very